right, now that we have our lab report set up, we have our names in it, we have our hypothesis, we have the variables typed up, and we have the pictures of all three of our planes in there. Now we're ready to actually look at the data that we collected in the experiment yesterday, and we're going to put our data table that we wrote in our notebook, we're going to put that into a Google Sheet. So that's a spreadsheet. A spreadsheet helps you organize numbers and that kind of information and sort through it and do things that you need to do so it makes sense. So I just uploaded an announcement here with a document. It says Paper Planes Data Table Template. It's right above the lab report. Okay, so we're not opening up that lab report template. You already have a copy of that. You already have that file you're working on. This is the Paper Planes Data Table Template. And remember, a template is something that I'm showing you how I want it to look. You cannot type on my template. So you'll click on that template, and it's going to come up like this. This is what I showed you yesterday when we drew our data tables in our notebook. Because it's a template, you cannot type in here. The measurer, and if you were in a group of 4, you had 2 measurers. One of the measurers needs to open this template. One person in the group needs to do this. File, make a copy, right? Because you're going to have to make a copy of this template so your group can type on it. And give it a name that makes sense. And click OK. And then go over here and share it with the people in your group. So start typing up names here. Okay? You know how that works, right? So if I was going to share this with Mrs. Collins. So you would type in the people in your group, then you would hit done, and then everyone would be able to access this document and start putting in the numbers. So you have numbers written down for plane 1, trial 1, trial 2, trial 3, plane 2, trial 1, trial 2, trial 3, and plane 3, trial 1, trial 2, trial 3. You're going to start typing those numbers up here. And remember, if it's a shared document, you guys are just going to have to communicate with each other about who is typing what, because we know how easy it can be to accidentally type while somebody else is doing it in the same spot, and then it erases somebody's work. So just be professional with each other and communicate and say, hey, I'm going to type this up. How about you do this? Okay, work it out. It's really not hard. It's meant to be a pretty easy task. Now over here, I made a formula to calculate the average for you. Okay, there's going to be times I have you do it on your own, but for this, I'm going to have the spreadsheet do it for you. So it's going to find the average of everything in these 3 trials. So I'm just going to make up some numbers here. I don't know, say the first plane flew 423. It's now going to start, once it has numbers, it's going to start finding the average. And it's going to automatically start creating a bar graph down here. So then you would just go in. Let's say we had one that went a little bit further this time. Again, I'm just making up numbers. You would put your own in here. And let's say we had one that maybe didn't go too far. Okay, so I just typed up some numbers. Notice now it calculated the average for you, and I did set it up because I know that there's a lot of really helpful things here that these software applications want to make things easier, not harder. And I actually took out all the decimal points for you. So it should be rounded to a whole number. Okay, that's what we're going to work with for this. We're just rounding to whole numbers. So that didn't really take me long, did it? I just typed in 9 numbers and it did the math work for me here, and it plotted it and made a graph for me as well. That didn't take long at all. Once your group has that done, then notice I just popped over then to my lab report. Then we're going to copy and paste our data table and our graph right here. Okay, so right underneath the pictures that we took. And that's a really easy thing to do. Copying, pasting is super simple. So first I'm going to have to do my data table. I can't do both at the same time, or at least I don't know how to do both at the same time. So I'm going to put my cursor in one end corner. I'm going to hold it down and drag to the next corner. I'm going to go to Edit, Copy, and pop over to my lab report then. My cursor's right where I want it to be. Edit, Paste. It's going to ask if I want to link it to the spreadsheet. That would mean any changes that you make over on the spreadsheet would show up on this document, which is a pretty cool thing. So I'm going to leave that selected, and I'm going to click Paste. Boom, there's my data table. Now I need to go in and do the graph. So I'm going to click off of this, okay, because I don't want this selected anymore. I'm going to click on my graph. See how it's selected now? Edit, Copy, back to my lab report, Edit, Paste. Link to spreadsheet, yippers. And that looks pretty snazzy, doesn't it? It's going to make our lab report look pretty nice. And we have not only our numbers listed, but we also have the graphical way of seeing our information here. Now, because I'd have that done, you know what I would do? I would just take this out because I don't need those instructions right there anymore about where to put my data table and graph because they're already in. Okay, so we're going to stop this step now, and then we'll move on to the next one in a moment.